So Donald Trump, with the help of the Republican Party, is now coming after the arts, and they are bringing an axe. Now, the New York Times is reporting that the new Republican budget put forward by the Budget Office, who is now chaired by Republican Mick Mulvaney, a guy who's, of course, famous for wanting to cut Social Security. So that guy's now in charge of the Budget Office. They said that they will be cutting funding to a lot of different domestic programs in order to save money. Now, again, this is not really surprising because of their previous record on, hey, let's cut everything that we don't like. And that's what they do. They get into office, they cut a bunch of programs after destroying, blowing a hole in the federal budget with all their tax cuts and military spending. I'll get to that in a minute. And then end up cutting any sort of social program or any sort of funding for education in the arts. So that's what's happening here. This is your standard Republican move. So congratulations, Donald Trump, for becoming a standard Republican when you claimed to not be. But we all know that was full of shit. Now, this is interesting because some of the programs, a lot of the programs actually, that are going to be cut actually don't really add much to the federal budget. And that's really their argument for trying to cut these programs. Well, they're so expensive. We just can't afford all this waste, man. All this waste on the arts and stuff. Oh, no, we got to cut that so that we can give tax cuts to millionaires and billionaires and more money to the military that we don't need. So that's their reasoning. Now, the Times has a list of several programs that have been singled out for cuts. One of them, interestingly enough, is the White House's Office on National Drug Control Policy. Now, what that does is that it basically dispenses grants out to with the aim of reducing drug use and drug trafficking. So what this would do is that it gives out grants to try to figure out ways to get people to not use drugs and to stop drug trafficking. Now, correct me if I'm wrong here, but Donald Trump recently made a huge deal about drug traffickers. We got to stop the drugs from coming in. We're going to build a wall. It's going to be big. It's going to stop the drug traffickers. Well, that's funny because, first of all, the wall's not going to stop shit. Narco submarines, tunnels, airplanes, fucking catapults. I think they're prepared for you. They can defeat your wall. Just saying. And again, there's numerous ways that drug traffickers can get drugs into the country. Now, if you take away the funding to try to figure out how to stop all the other ways that they can get into the country, or drugs can get into the country, or what we can do, and look, let's be honest, we already know the answer on how to stop drug trafficking. You legalize, and you regulate, and you tax. You instantly destroy the cartels. They'll have to go to something else. But hey, don't listen to me, I'm just a lib. So, but whatever. But the whole thing is, other than drug trafficking, of course, reducing drug use. Now, I'm in favor of reducing the usage of drugs, especially prescription drugs, because right now, the Midwest is in a little bit of a opioid epidemic, where, white people mainly have been overprescribed powerful narcotic prescription drugs. They get hooked on it, then they lose their prescription, then they end up going to heroin. So massive, massive epidemic. So what the Trump administration does, even though they made a big deal about, oh my God, the epidemic, we got to do something about this. Whoops. Oh, we just pulled the funding. Or we're going to pull funding from this program that actually would help with that. Fantastic. Great. Now, another thing that they have is the National Endowment of the Arts. Another thing on the chopping block. But hey, who needs the arts anyway? All it does is just help people with creativity and critical thinking. Republicans don't want that. Can't have that. No critical thinking allowed on our watch. No. We love the poorly educated. So that's another thing on the chopping block, of course. Another interesting choice of programs to cut is the Appalachian Regional Commission. Now, what this is it's an independent agency aimed at developing in some of the poorest parts of the country, which would be one of them at least would be Appalachia or Appalachia. or however you say it. This is one of the places that Donald Trump successfully campaigned in and won. He won coal country. He won Appalachia. But no. We're gonna take away funding from an independent agency that is looking to develop these parts and maybe, I don't know, create opportunity for these people in places that have been left behind. Let's pull funding from that. That is considered waste by the Trump administration. Not only that, but again, you have the National Endowment for the Humanities. Don't care about humanities, right? And the Corporation for Public Broadcasting. This has been a long-time conservative target. They've been salivating the chance to kill Big Bird for years, for decades, since Newt fucking Gingrich. I don't know. Did Big Bird give him the side eye or something like that? I don't know. Bert and Ernie? Maybe they're a little too gay for Newt and the rest of Republicans. They want to destroy it. Other agencies include the budget office list of cuts. I'm sorry, the other agencies the budget office wants to cut include the Overseas Private Investment Corporation and the Corporation for National Community Service, which finances programs run by AmeriCorps and Senior Corps. Now, the memo also proposed reducing funding for the Neighborhood Reinvestment Corp, a nonprofit organization focused on urban development. Again, let's not create any opportunity for people in urban areas. Because you know what urban means. Black. Let's not fund that at all. Now, again, all these programs and more that Donald Trump and the Republicans are going after that are in this memo of cuts, well, together, all lumped in together, they cost about $2.5 billion annually. Now, look, that sounds like a lot of money. Yeah, and it is. Now, to put it in context, though, our budget is $4 trillion a year. These programs that are vital to a lot of people, well, they're a drop in the bucket compared to the budget itself. To put it in context, there are some numbers here. All these programs cost about 0.0625% of the projected 2017 budget. My, what savings you have found here, Republicans? You only had to screw over the arts and people with addictions and people in Appalachia and other places in order to get it. But hey, look at those savings, man. 0.625%. Nailed it. Budget savings. But hey, you got to save that money, right? The waste. No. This isn't about stopping waste. This isn't about fiscal responsibility. Now, Republicans despise these programs because they actually do things, either by educating people or helping them in some way. But again, when Republicans look at this, they say waste, fraud, and abuse. Everything is waste except for tax cuts, because those are great. We love tax cuts for the rich. Doesn't make any sense, does it? Now you have Steve Bell, who is a former staff director of the Senate Budget Committee, who is now with the Bipartisan Policy Center. He said the programs identified in the memo are standard targets for Republican budget cutters, but of little significance in the government's financial picture. He said, quote, "It's sad in a way because those programs aren't causing the deficit. These programs don't amount to a hill of beans." Again, to Republicans, well, they're coming to stomp on your hill. Spending money on the arts and poor people, waste. It's a waste. They don't realize that, or maybe they do actually, that the majority of our waste is in our bloated military. We spend about $600 billion a year on the Pentagon. And look, it's not like it's going to the troops. It's not. The majority of this is spent on giant contracts for tanks and ships and planes that we don't necessarily need. We don't need them, especially at a time where we're pulling out of different wars. And here we have Trump and the rest of the Republicans saying, we're going to increase military spending. We're going to increase the military. We're going to make it bigger. In fact, Trump said in an interview with Fox News last month, a balanced budget is fine. But sometimes you have to fuel the well in order to really get the economy going. What does that mean? Fuel the well. It means more military spending. He said, quote, "I want a balanced budget eventually, but I want to have a strong military. So military comes first. Now, I think that should concern everybody. You see, we already have the world's strongest military. You don't build up an even bigger military on top of that unless you plan on using it. That is the conventional wisdom. And it's not as if Republicans haven't thought about bringing a little freedom to Iran. No, they think about it a lot. Oh, what a disaster. And that's my fear. And of course, you notice whenever you have any discussions about spending more money on the military, nobody seems to ask, where's that money coming from? Who's going to pay for that? But look, when it comes to funding the arts or, funding people in Appalachia who need some, opportunity, well, we can't come up with that money. How are you going to pay for it? Oh, you want to expand education? It's going to be $75 billion a year? Oh my God. How are you going to pay for that? Oh, here, Pentagon, here's another $600 billion a year. Have fun. Buy some planes and Abrams tanks you don't need. It's great. Again, universal education would cost $75 billion a year. But that is an investment into America's leaders, to the next generation of America, American leaders, businessmen, etc., etc. But no, we can't make that investment. Instead, we're going to buy some Abrams tanks. We're going to buy a plane that doesn't work. Ridiculous. Those are our priorities, man. Instead of spending on people who, are going to be creative and innovative, and they're going to create the next businesses, small and large, or creating opportunity for those people in inner cities, or actually making the arts available so that people can learn creative thinking. No, can't have that. And you know how we get that? We get that by funding education and the arts. The very things that Republicans have been trying to gut for very, very little gain. All this is to send a message that we don't like education, we don't like arts, all we like is war. All we like is tax cuts for already super rich people. If you think the Republicans are on your side, it should be pretty clear, if you're paying attention, that they are not. Hey everybody, thanks for watching this video. If you want to see more like this, please hit the subscribe button below. And if you want to support truly independent progressive media, please consider becoming a patron at patreon.com/TYTNation.